Recording is on. All right, we're here for our BTCPay merchant product review. The basic gist of what we're talking about is I'm working on some merchant content for the Bitcoin Design Guide and trying to look at existing merchant product solutions for Bitcoin so that we can just kind of see what's already out there on the market, what these products are doing well, where they're lacking, and just kind of come from a more informed space as I'm working on the merchant content. So this week we are looking at BTCPay server, one that everyone's probably very familiar with. Yeah, so before I just like dive into BTCPay, I don't know, any questions or comments before we get started here? Very cool. I put a note document in the chat here, just if anybody has thoughts that they feel like recording throughout this. One of just kind of to guide my own thinking for this, I kind of set out some questions when I set out to do these merchant product reviews. Who is it designed for? What unique problems do they face? Is this for e-commerce or brick and mortar? What size of organization? What designs decisions make this uniquely suited for merchants? And then I let this prompt for people to add more. Um, my kind of take on the who is it designed for is like my understanding of the BTC Pay server history is that it's kind of um, uh, built in response to BitPay, like during the block size war. I think it was I'm not sure if this product still exists because I think they may have changed their offering over the years, but BitPay had some kind of merchant service, merchant tool, or something like that that some people used. And then during the debate over the block size war, I think that there was like some disagreement over what the side they were taking in that, and the BTC Pay was sort of created as an alternative to the BitPay merchant services. Um, I might be wrong on that. That's kind of what I remember reading in a book once. So I'm going to run with that until like somebody corrects me on that. But yeah, so I mean, I saw the like who is it designed for as basically just like former customers of BitPay's merchant tooling.
But that's kind of the initial
Yeah,
idea, maybe, right? And then it's evolved into its
yeah,
whole another thing.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's kind of the thing is I'd be curious to kind of like hear the team's take on like what they think of nowadays as the like who is it for now. Um, it's important to remember that that's kind of how it started, I think, just so that sometimes when a project is started, that kind of like sets the foundation for what the project is going to be. I think it's kind of interesting that like I was saying, like what unique problems do they face? Like BTC Pay is kind of like uh, it's self custodial, like at its very core. Like it wasn't designed with this idea that it was like going to one day be a product. I don't think it was just like really like we want to build this open source product that's going to be like a completely free self custodial alternative to this other product that we used to use. And I think that's kind of like really informed their kind of design roadmap because it's not like like some of these uh, merchant products that come out like based around being a company. Um, their tooling is more designed around like being self custodial and enabling you to or not sorry being just custodial and just kind of holding the Bitcoin on the company's behalf and swapping between fiat and Bitcoin for a company very quickly. And like BTC Pay is kind of like taken the like absolute opposite track the entire time. So I think like self custodial at all costs would be like one of the my guesses. Like it's customers who don't have access to traditional payment forms.
Stephen, I was wondering, what your thoughts are on, because during the designathon, a couple of people redesigned the Yashraj is on the call as well. They redesigned the merchant server page.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so we have the question here, like, who is it designed for? But then another question might be who is actually using it, and that we can actually get from the BTC Pay website, because that's the redesign that Yashraj is still busy doing, I think. Um, you can pretty much
That's
just.
also
Mm,
sorry, that's also a tough one. I remember doing the presentation in Riga, Pav on stage talking about BTC Pay said they don't track anyone, so they don't really know exactly who uses this thing. They might have a rough idea based on just the sense of interacting with people online, real world, and whatnot. But really, there might be all kinds of unknown users as well.
yeah, I've dropped the link in for the directory over here. This is the one that Yashraj was redesigning. And Pav said exactly what Christoph said, is they don't really track who uses it. This link over here is basically like people who've actually registered um, that they're using it, but probably there's a whole bunch of people that are not using it.
Mm.
So that provides a bit of insight as well.
Yeah, those are more the people that say, I am a proud user, but there might be many people who do not want to be public in any
Yep,
way.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like one of my most common like interactions with BTC Pay, just like on the like customer side, is just people in Bitcoin who have like one thing that they need to sell, and then they just make like a BTC Pay server link for that one thing. So like if you're going to somebody's event or something like that, they might make a BTC Pay server link that is for like $200 for a ticket or something like that, and then just send out that link to everybody. And so it's like it's yeah, that's kind of like my most common interaction with it, is just like somebody making a single BTC Pay link, and for this like kind of like one time use. It's almost like almost like a burn or a buy button.
Interesting. Interesting.
Um, I set up my own. I mean, I'd messed with it a while back, but I'd never gotten like too deep into it. I guess just because I haven't had like I don't run an online store, so I haven't had like a lot of like, stuff I've needed to sell. But so I spun up a fresh instance just to kind of go through it, and it's like I did mine through Voltage, and so what you can do is you can just go to like um, the Voltage website, and then like you sign up with their account, and they got a couple different products they can give you. So like one is like the nodes, and then liquidity, and then BTC Pay server. So basically, like if you don't have your own node at home that you want to run it on or use or whatever, like if you're just like a brand new user just getting into this straight away, basically like sign up for the service. You purchase a node, so you have like a node, a Lightning node running in the cloud. And then what you do is you use the flow service, and basically it kind of like lets you purchase inbound liquidity. I guess you'd call it kind of like an LSP, but the basic gist is you can be like, yeah, I want a channel for, you know, 200,000 sats, and they'll give you like a recommendation on like the market rate for the fee you're going to pay for it. You submit your order, and it opens a channel with you. So it's pretty nice because it's like you don't really have to get into too much of the I mean, it's going to be confusing, I think, if you're, not used to Lightning and liquidity management, but, there was no CLI or anything involved. And then you click another button in the dashboard, and it lets you spin up your own BTC Pay server. And once you get into the BTC Pay server, you can basically actually, I think it gave me during the Voltage setup, it was something like, do you want to have this like connected to your one of your nodes, your Voltage node. And so I think I just chose yes, and then it kind of set it up for me automatically. So yeah, I mean, just like setting aside the kind of technicalities of Lightning and needing to understand liquidity, the actual setup process was pretty easy, I thought, just in terms of what they provide. It's important to note that you could set up BTC Pay in many different ways. So if you're a programmer and you really the exact specific stack, tech stack that you're running is very important to you, then you could, go to the BTCPay GitHub. You could download the code directly. You could kind of set it up by hand, so to speak, from the terminal. So that's always an option for you. Or, you could go through like a service like Voltage that kind of does these like point and click installations of BTCPay. And I've even heard that there's companies and stuff that are kind of like consulting firms that'll kind of like help you set up your own BTCPay server. They'll set it up for you and teach you how to use it and all that kind of stuff. So I think that there's a lot of different ways that like a merchant could get set up on this platform. It's not as straightforward as just like, here's this one product, go to this website to do it. But there's both difficult and easy ways to get set up and running on BTCPay, I think.
Yep. Which is what makes it so powerful too.
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult thing to design, actually.
Yeah. Just jotting that down for later. So I set mine up and like kind of, just by default I had it. It's got my Lightning node hooked up so I can accept payments, and kind of like the where was it? Let's create a payment request here. My live payment request, and I'll set this for like $100. I'll just set that for like $5 just in case I want to test it out. And then create. Yeah, so this is an interesting one right here. This is like payment request here. This is not quite the like burner link I was talking about before, but like this one is like I could make a payment request and then just like copy this and send this directly to you, Christoph, and then this would be like a payment link just to you, and then you could pay it. When I look at this kind of like feature, this almost makes me think of like a freelancer or something like that. Like I built a website for you or something like that, and then I need to bill you for my services, so I'm going to go in and create this payment request link and then send you an email and say, hey, okay, the website's done, pleasure working with you, here's your final invoice, you can pay it here at this link if you want. So that's kind of like that seems like a use case for that one, the kind of like digital freelancer use case.
A question here. It says payment history. Why would there be a whole history? Shouldn't it be ideally just a single payment? I mean, you could make, if it's an on-chain address, you could make multiple payments to it, which is probably not what you want. I'm just curious how that history, what that could encapsulate.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a sort of. Let's test it out. I want to try, see what happens. I'm going to pay the invoice. I'm going to pay my.
Or let's say you send this to me and then you make edits to the invoice. Is that also part of the history? Like it might be good to know when the invoice was changed.
Yeah, exactly. Let's test that out. Like then let's say I change it and I'm like, okay, it's actually made a miscounting error. It's actually $4.
It's way more appropriate.
And then, okay, so I updated it, and then kind of wish, oh, there it is. There's the view button. Says
previous payments, all other payments then, I guess.
It says payment history status new. I think what it's trying to say is that it created an invoice, and it might just be trying to say that like it generated an invoice for me. So what happens if I hit the pay invoice button? Do I get like the same one? No, what happens if I refresh it? No? See, I don't think I actually paid the invoice. That's the problem. So,
I mean, maybe they just differentiate between the generic payment request and the invoice itself, that those are two different types of objects that they handle.
Yeah, it might be more you mean invoice in a more like user-facing term. Like here's the invoice for your, this product or service, not like a lightning
Yeah,
invoice.
like
But
this could be just like a page that says pay this much, but then when you actually want to pay it, then it talks to the node and maybe
mhm.
gets the lightning invoice and all of that.
Yeah, so I'm going to pay this now, and let me just scan that real quick. I'll pay it from a mobile wallet. Hey, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 0.002 BTCLN, and then it shows this right here. Gives, I guess, like shows me the invoice and all that got paid. Um, yeah, so I'm not really sure exactly the what the history thing would go there, but that's a good question.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. Then there was also, let's see, I think this, yeah, so interesting. If I make a payment request, then that invoice also appears here in my invoices screen. So there's a couple of other like kind of features I want to look at here too. Like one of them would just be like the pay button, and warning, payment button should only be used for tips and donation. Um, Using payment button for e-commerce integrations is not recommended since order relevant
Mm.
information can be modified by the user. So I was looking at this and it kind of it reminds me a lot of like the PayPal button. So uh, you know, like if you actually have like a full on e-commerce store with an inventory system and all that, you would probably want to use like some kind of plug-in integration to like use PayPal as your payment processor. But you can also just get the like pay me with PayPal button, and you just like they just give you a little code, and you just embed that on your website and all that, and you're good to go. And it's kind of the same thing. So like I walked through here the other day. Yeah, here it gives you a little preview, and so as you go through here, you can kind of like bake in a price or a description or things like that. Fixed amount, custom amount. See if I give a custom amount, it gives me like a little button to where the user can like choose their own payment amount and all that. So I thought that was kind of neat. Just the payment button. And I'm trying to think like the payment button, that just seems like a good kind of thing for like, nonprofit organization, like donations kind of thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Tips, blogger, artist,
Maybe they
musician.
should just rename it to donation button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like, yeah, like what they're trying to say, I think, is that like, the user could go in and tweak the amount. So like you can't make it like you can't be like, okay, this product definitely costs $50. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, the payment button was cool. Lightning address, I saw this. They integrated that. So they added a lightning address option. So because I have a domain already, like for the store. Like I'm obviously just like I'm using a Voltage instance, so my domain is btcpay0.voltageapp.io. But in theory, if I ran this on my own server with my own domain name that I control, then like if I used my like Delorme domain name, then I could probably have a Lightning address that would like just be have my own domain name. So I thought that was pretty cool. That they have that ability to kind of run your own Lightning address, because that's kind of been one of my criticisms of Lightning address. I think it's actually a really interesting like tech. I think it really does make like Lightning a little bit more like palatable in terms of sharing like payment information with people. I think the idea of a username is really nice. My one criticism is just being that like, are people just going to use Lightning addresses through like custodial services and stuff like that might be able to censor transactions? Not that these companies or services are evil, but it's just like, too much centralization, that too many people are using Lightning addresses from the same company. So I'm glad to see that some people are taking long-winded way of saying I'm glad that like projects like BTCPay server have this Lightning address functionality built in to where if somebody wanted to, there's like a way out there where they could just run their own Lightning address with their own domain name and all that.
Okay, so sorry, this is totally random, but it might be a stupid question. Why Lightning address and not just Bitcoin address? Why can't this way of doing which I know it's just some whatever .well-known file that really routes to something else.
Uh,
Why could that not serve like a unified QR code information, right, an on-chain address and a Lightning invoice at the same time?
Seems plausible. It may be possible. Um, it's basically all it is behind the scenes is it's transforming. It's just a URL transformation to turn it into an L and URL lookup. So the real question would be, um, does the L and URL spec already provide an option to provide something like a BIP21 URI as a response, or does
Yeah.
it not? And I don't know the answer to that, but that's a good thing to look into.
So with this instance, you could set up your own Lightning address, but let's say also one for family members, for example.
Yeah, and I think I might be able. I'm kind of curious what happens if I try to pay this thing. I don't want to get like too deep into like troubleshooting crap on like a live call or something. So I'm just going to try this real quick. Hold on 1 second. I have to log into my.
It's also interesting that function of adding an address. Would you then just add in addresses that you would be planning to send in the future? Would that then become contacts? That's also
Well, this is more for like making your own Lightning address. Like
okay.
I'll show you, assuming that this
It's like an
works.
email address.
Yeah, it's like an
Yeah.
email address for your Lightning. Yeah.
And
So what I
send stuff
did,
to it.
I just I just made this Lightning address called meerkat at btcpay0.voltageapp.io, and I copied it, and then I opened my Zebedee wallet, which is also a custodial wallet for gamers that is like has a pretty good Lightning address integration. So I should be able to like let's see, this button, pay. I'm gonna pay like $1. No, I'm gonna pay like 1,000 sats, and then I'm gonna do recipients, and let me see, search for gamer tag or Lightning address. So I pasted meerkat at BTCPay at voltageapp.io in there. It recognizes it as a Lightning address. Come on. Okay, check mark it, choose users, and then testing it live for the memo. And okay, it says it worked on this end. And then let's see if I got it over here. Yeah, there we go. 20, I think that's it. 29 seconds ago. 0.18 or like 18 cents. That looks about right. Yeah, Lightning address used, Meerkat. So yeah, so like I mean, yeah, like in theory you could, this would be real nice because now like I've got my own Lightning address, Mo, and like I could just give out this kind of like email looking thing to everybody as my username. I could even make like this could be like my company or something, and like we could set up like imagine it's like a BTC Pay for like Bitcoin design or something like that. So it'd be like btcpay.bitcoin.design could be like the subdomain for it, right? And then like everybody in the community, like let's say like has their address, and it's like Mo at btc.pay.bitcoin.design, and then you've got this nice like little easy email. So like the ad address would just be like we would add like different Lightning addresses for different people, or maybe you want to add like a different Lightning address for different customer bases or something like that. I don't know. Like, so if you go to this type of conference, if you go to a design conference, you want to give out one Lightning address, and then you go to a Bitcoin conference and you want to give out another Lightning address, something like that.
Yep, makes sense.
I like that feature a lot. I'm very pleased to see that like integrated so easily. Another one was this intangible meerkat point of sale thing that I added here. I tried to name the store with like random adjective, random animal, but it was like you go to this apps directory. It's not installed by default, and like you hit like new app, and then it lets you choose one of them right here. I actually haven't tried the crowdfund yet. I did try the point of sale, but basically you do point of sale, you type in an app name, and then it gives you this right here. and it lets you put in some descriptions and all this kind of stuff. And then like by default, it kind of like generates these like placeholder products for you. So I guess it's like the default is it's like a tea store or something like that, like a cat running a cafe or something like that. And then you get to choose like how you want the point of sale to look. And so one of them was item list, like item list only, I think is the default. So I save that, and then you hit the view, and then it gives you all of this kind of stuff. And this is kind of what I was talking about. And I said like a lot of times I get these kind of like almost BTC pay burner links from people. Is they'll make one of these little stores with the POS add-on, and they'll make like a single item, like just like one item, like this is my event, and then it has a price set on it, and then you click the pay button. Um, and there's actually an option on here. Again, like the most common use case I see is when people have, what is it? Do not request any information, or like request email address only. Sometimes I get don't request any information at all. I mean, you got to really know the person before you pay one of these. But like, if you have it set up like that, then you can go here. Like the default out of the box setup for this point of sale integration is like you just pay it, and it just like takes you right here, direct, generates a lightning invoice to you and doesn't take any information from you.
No shopping cart either.
Yeah, exactly. But so you can turn all these things on. So what I can do is I can say, first I can say, request shipping address and all that. And then if I do that, it gives me like another step in between that. It wants my like information and all of that. So that's good if like you're selling something where like uh, you're not going to have like more than one product or something like that. Like somebody's going to be like buy one ticket just for them. But
Hmm.
but still, like it's I don't know if they want to buy a ticket for their friend or whatever, you might need that. So then you could also go. Honestly, I don't know, the item list only. Now that I think about that, that's actually really kind of a weird default because like I'm trying to think of. I feel like I'm trying to think of a situation where you're only going to want to buy one item, nothing else, and and only one quantity of that item. Like even if it's like an event and you have like different ticket tiers, like the bronze ticket, the silver ticket, the gold ticket, you still might want to buy two silver tickets or three silver
Correct.
tickets.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
honestly,
well, it's not even possible to do more than one. Yeah,
yeah, you'd have to do multiple
that's good.
transactions. I do, yeah, I'm just gonna like jot down as a note, item list. Why is this a default? A default or an option. I'm not entirely sure. It seems kind of weird. But what I do like is this one here, item list and cart. And then if I save that, then you'll see I get like a little bit more like stuff to work with here. And it shows me this like little cart thing over here. And then I could go to my green tea and I can see it appear in my cart. And then I got my black tea. And then I could be like, wait, I'm going to buy some extra green tea. I'm going to buy like a green tea for everybody on the call. Boom. And then I guess the funny thing here though is that like I can also put like a discount on here. Um, so like I'm the customer here. Like here's what I'm curious about. Like if I go here,
It's normally it feels like you would fill in a discount code.
yeah, well, and I think that we're making some. You're right, and so I think that we have to look at like what this is designed, the use case is designed for. If I say 10% discount, I just gave myself a discount. So I really feel like this kind of thing, like it says POS, and I think that it looks to us a little bit like we're at an e-commerce site to like buy a product or something, but it really feels like this is designed for like an in-person point of sale.
So it's someone standing, if you imagine like a little shop, and then the person's buying the green tea and the black tea from me, and I decide as a merchant, okay, I'll give you 10%. And then I type in 10% and I finish the transaction.
Yeah, and then you say, "Do you want to leave a
Hmm.
tip?" And I guess
Yeah.
nowadays everyone flips their iPad around and all of that. But yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
so I'm gonna go ahead and like jot down. Oh, and sorry, I was just like doing. I just had like BTC Pay opened in a private window, and I was like demoing the tipping functionality and all that. I'm sorry, I realized that probably wasn't on my screen share, so my bad. But I opened it in a private window real quick because I wanted to make sure it wasn't like seeing me as logged in. Um,
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't like seeing me as like an admin because I'm like also logged in, but it gave me basically the same functionality. But yeah, so if I hit that, the 10%, it updates it live and then all of that. And so yeah, so I think the yeah, like the POS definitely in person only. Um, unless there's like a way
But
that
that
we can
must
go ahead.
there must be an option for it. That seems weird. Yeah, there the user can input discount. There is a toggle for it. Not
Not recommend.
recommended for customer self-checkout. Yeah.
Nice. So if I that may have been one I turned on. So if I turn that off, I'm curious if there's like a discount code feature and all that. There isn't, but that's okay.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, I feel like BTC Pay Server is also used by people who are not actually like physical shop merchants. So I guess
Yeah,
that makes sense that you can turn off that function of allow discount code to be entered. So if you were a merchant in a physical store, you would turn that on, and if you had an online store, you would turn that off.
yeah,
Because if it was turned on, then people could just give themselves discounts.
yeah. And there's also some other ones too that are like more designed. So I guess this is kind of like you could use it for both use cases. It's like you could have um, you could use it as a website or you could use it as a store. There's another view that you can do that's like keypad only. I thought was cool. So I can view
Hmm.
this one, and then all I get is a keypad. So this is like straight up in person, and I mean, this would just be like perfect for the kind of like restaurant or cafe or something that doesn't like keep track of inventory. Like especially if it's like a coffee cart or something like that, and like you know basically they can make you 4 or 5 different types of coffee, but they don't really have like an inventory, right? So you're just charging people for different degrees of coffee fanciness, and this is like looks super easy to use for in person. Like I could totally imagine loading this up on an iPad or something like that, and just sending somebody out into the wild with it.
Mm. Are there
And
two
some, the
clear
one of the
buttons?
user, sorry.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say there seem to be two clear buttons
Let's take a look and see.
on
One thing I want
on
to do real quick.
that keypad.
Yeah, I want to. Oh, and then you can turn the tipping option off too if you want. Because we're in like POS mode, I want to not request any information, so I'll turn that off. So there's a lot of kind of like options. You got to make sure that you like have it configured for your use case, I guess. But I go here and then I say 7, 8, clear, and then hold on. So yeah, so they do different things. So this one is more
Mhm.
like a backspace, and then this one
Oh,
is all like clear everything. It's a
gotcha.
There's I remember now from Amsterdam, Bitcoin Amsterdam, Pav did a demonstration with a handheld version, I think, of what you just showed us on the screen.
mm,
So I'm actually curious how that experience is because we don't actually have that physical device. It just looks like this handheld, I don't know,
hmm
machine, and then it kind of prints out a what do you call it? Like a receipt as well.
nice.
Um, yeah, that's really interesting to look at as well.
Yeah, I just for giggles, put it into like a iPad mode here in like Dev Tools. It's like, yeah, it looks like that would be pretty handy. And if I rotate the screen,
Yeah,
it still
yeah.
kind of shows. Now, now this is the one I thought was really fun. Down here, point of sale
Sorry,
style.
one
Yeah.
quick question. In here, can you also see the SAT amount? Is there any way to quickly switch between the two?
Excellent
Good
question.
question. I
Excellent
don't
question.
I don't think so.
Or to change the currency, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it definitely tells you when you get to the checkout screen. Let's check the options and see. Like maybe I wonder if there's like a currency option. Here we go, currency USD. So say we're in like some hyper Bitcoinized world that has adopted the SAT standard and da 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 da. Now let's see what happens. Then I can go back to here Yeah, and so now it's changed the currency to sats. And
But in here, there's no quick way to go back and forth.
No.
correct, yeah.
Hmm.
No quick way to swap currencies in POS mode. Have to go back to admin and change it from there.
Bear in mind that as a merchant, you do have a default currency in which you accept things. It's a visual thinking, thinking that you will accept euros, dollars, pesos, or whatever currency. That doesn't work. So that's the reason why we don't have that option, because merchants only accept one currency, their local currency. They don't care about all different ones. I mean, I've never been to the US and tried to pay how much that is in euros. That doesn't make sense to me. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes sense as a sensible default. I mean, it's like you, yeah, you whenever you're at an in-person store, there's no question about what currency you're giving them. So it makes sense, I think. Glad you could join us, Pavel.
Yeah, nice to see you here, Pop. I didn't even see that you were.
yeah, sorry, I had a meeting overlap, but now I'm here to answer any questions if there are any.
Yeah, we were just kind of casually going through it. Just we're trying to. I think, yeah. Let me go over this print mode real quick, and then I kind of would like to get your input on like kind of how the BTCPay team like thinks about like product design. Or like kind of like who your users are. But yeah, I want to show off this like print feature. This is cool. I want to show this off. I switch it to print mode here, and then save it, and then refresh the page. Look at that. This view is intended for printing only. Isn't that cool?
No, it's nice.
Yeah, so I mean that's just like another way to think about you know merchants using this kind of stuff is that like maybe they're not going to be there with like a dedicated terminal or something all the time. Uh, I'm trying to remember who it was that was um, explaining this to me. Trying to remember, it might have been someone I was hanging out with in person, but it was like someone was like talking to me about like going to India and like in these like really like rural places. I think it was like Apple Pay and Google Pay and stuff like that. But yeah, they basically go out to they'd be out in these rural places, basically like with vendors selling stuff through Apple Pay and Google Pay, just with these like static QR codes. Um, and I guess the idea is that like if you're just selling like small things, if you can, like if you see somebody scan your QR code with their phone and you see the payment pop up and succeed on their screen, then like maybe that's good enough for you. So it's kind of a trusted setup, but it's kind of like it's better than nothing, and it works pretty well for these like kind of like small amount payments and all of that. People are probably not going to scam you out of like buying some produce or some coffee or something. Guess anything's possible, but this seems like an interesting kind of thing. So if I scan one of these, this is probably going to be like I'm guessing this is like LNURL or something. Just learning as I go here.
Yes.
Looking to receive, this seems like an LNURL code. Yep. This seems like an LNURL code. It allows you to receive Bitcoin via Lightning instead of sending it. Do you want to use it? Receive Bitcoin. Yeah, man, Moon is freaking weird. It's like it thinks it's like a receive code or something.
Yeah, it does have some problems with that.
Yeah, I guess it's just not the greatest to use with like LNURL and stuff. But if I scan it with like Breeze, it just recognizes it immediately, and it recognizes like the one sat amount. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. I thought that was like a really clever feature that it was all the different ways you could use the point of sale. I like that. Um, yeah. So Pavel, like I was just curious about we were kind of like chatting about at the beginning about like who's it designed for and like kind of like what the unique problems of BTCPay servers customers are. I brought up the point that, like, very early on as a project, I thought it was, built in response to BitPay, and like kind of built as like this like self-custodial open source alternative to whatever, merchant tooling BitPay was doing back at that time. But obviously the project has grown a lot since then. And so I was just kind of curious how the team thinks about, like, what kind of user groups you're building it for.
Yeah, that's a tough question. First of all, we don't have a way of tracking anything, so we really don't know who is using it. The only way we get feedback from users is by direct one-to-one contact with them, which means that they come to one of our community chats, and that's how we talk with them about how they use it, who they are, and what are the problems they have. So that's also good and bad because the only feedback we get is usually just complaints, and then you have people who actually have some ideas. But I would say BTCPay server users come into a few buckets or groups. First and most obvious one is a merchant wanting to accept Bitcoin payment who has, I would say, primarily an online shop and wants to integrate a way to accept Bitcoin payments into that store. Second group of users would be people who would like to accept donations. So they use BTCPay server because it does not charge any fees. There are no any third parties, and they use one of many of our apps that we have to accept those payments. And then we have, I guess we call them third-party hosts or server admins. Those are people who actually run BTCPay server for themselves, but also for other people, allowing others to join in their instance, basically, and accept payments. Which then comes to, it's similar experience when you have a centralized payment provider, right? You have a website, they come to that website, register, and you're their user now, trusting them with their node and whatever to accept your payments. So I guess I'm not sure if this was clear enough, but basically it's an
Yeah.
admin who hosts. We have admins who host. One of the most popular ones hosted for 10,000 people, and I think that number was from last year, so that probably grew. And then I guess we also have developers because BTCPay is in a way this payment platform that allows them to build on top of our API. So they use us for that as well. And then I guess the minority is people who use BTCPay server as their wallet node management software because that's an easy way, or at least it was back in the days, to run a Lightning node very easily, or just have a wallet which integrates with your hardware wallet so that you can use it without any intermediary, meaning you can use Ledger, Trezor, or whatever directly with your node. And this was before, of course, Sparrow and other services that grew out of it. But there are a lot of user groups which we're trying to tackle, and I think that's visible in how we design things and how we think about user experience. Sometimes it's chaotic. It has a lot of options, a lot of buttons that you need to enable in order to specifically tailor it for yourself. And I think that's how we develop it so that it's very flexible for people to use. But it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for a regular merchant who just wants to accept payment in their shop, retail, especially physical, because they can just use any wallet. But BTCPay server is a little bit more than that because it allows you to have an invoice management software, basically. So imagine if you have like 10 or 20 people coming in to your shop one by one and paying in Bitcoin, then a wallet probably does not scale because how do you know who paid where, what, and how do you know who to refund? So that part gets tricky, but we are not there yet, I guess. So a simple wallet is perfectly fine, in my opinion, to accept payments physically. Online, that's a whole different story because you need to integrate within all of these different e-commerce management systems that you have, so CMSs. So yeah, I'm ranting now, but I guess you get a point that there are lots of user groups that use BTCPay server for whole different reasons. And that, I guess, explains some of our design choices, because we do not design it for a specific user group. It's for more wide community, and people just have different requirements all the time. One way we are trying to tackle this specific problem of constantly adding features is by having a plugin system now, which will allow us to have a perfectly simple, I guess, interface or core software, which is also secure and very simple for anybody wanting to just accept Bitcoin to their store or via, I don't know, point of sale. But for any other crazy use case, like I want to have a perfectly good wallet which will have labelings and all things like that, and I want it to interact with my node, and then on top of that I want to, I don't know, request buyer information when I send them invoice and get an email. So that, I mean, you get a point. People just have very flexible needs, and we'll try to cater those needs via plugins. But I don't think that's very merchant related, so I won't go too deep into that one.
Well, by the plugin system, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I was gonna ask, are there situations where you tell people, no, this is not going to work for you? Like, are there specific boundaries? Could be, I don't know, a store with 100, salespeople, or I don't know, certain needs where you just say BTCPay is just not the thing for you.
Yeah, believe it or not, enterprises actually appreciate when they have this sort of flexibility when they deal with stuff. So they can then cater for and tailor it for their own needs, because they have development team and things like that. For example, Namecheap, one of our biggest merchants, which has, I think, 600 Bitcoin transactions per day, they appreciate the flexibility, because our API gives them freedom to integrate it any way they want. It's mostly small guys, merchants, who are a little bit tech illiterate. They don't understand what a server is, how it works, that they need to deploy it, or we have problems communicating to them that they can actually register to somebody else's server, but then it's us saying to them, oh, there is this random guy in, I don't know, Kazakhstan having BTCPay Kazakhstan server, and you can register there. It's free, but we don't know who it is. So that's a problem. And also you have merchants who specifically want to have I don't know, licenses, regulations, or whatever it is locally, and BTCPay server does not have that, because when you host it, it's yours. You don't need any of those stuff. But sometimes big companies want that, and they will then opt in with a company that is, in a way centralized and operates within regulations. Since BTCPay server is just a software that you as a merchant are running, we don't have that, and it's not our goal, and it'll be very difficult to achieve that from our perspective, because we don't host BTCPay server for people. Our instance is literally a demo instance that people use.
Yeah, it's more like a WordPress.org, not the WordPress.com.
Yes, exactly. In the past, we considered that, but I think that model would probably allow BTCPay server to raise a few million and become one of those Bitcoin companies. But I think with this, we are a little bit more free in how we think about things, not having investors and things like that. It just, we are making decisions based on solely on what our users want, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of curious about I thought it was interesting that some people just use the BTCPay as a wallet front end, or like a hardware wallet. I'd never thought about that. When you're talking about the server admins, like the people that join their instance, like you remarked that like there's one that has like maybe 1,000 people on there. So with this instance, do all the customers have like their own XPub on there? Like what I'm trying to ask is that admin acting as like a custodian for hundreds of users' funds, or can each user like have their own XPub on there individually, or their own node connection?
Yeah, so this is up to server admin. They can allow users to create a hot wallet on their instance. That's obviously easier onboarding, but also comes with a risk. And then most of actually these free hosts actually disable this option and just allow people to connect an external wallet, which means what you already said, just an XPub key or yeah, it really depends, but it's mostly, in most cases, it's just XPub key or a wallet file or things like that that they import, and it basically then means that all the funds come into their own wallet. For Lightning Network, this is a little bit tricky. For a long time, we did not have a solution for this because that would mean that in a non-custodial way, every single of these users would need to have their own nodes running somewhere, and that does not scale. So what we did there, and I'm not sure if this is interesting technically, but what we did there is we created an option for server admin, actually a plugin called LN Bank, which is basically a layer built on top of Lightning. So layer 3 built on top of Lightning, which is allowing server admin to, in a way, share their node, Lightning node with users, and then users have their own layer 3 wallets, basically, from which they can withdraw to any Lightning wallet. So, but this is custodian. This is risky for third-party hosts. Technically, it could mean that there is a regulatory risk for them. So we don't really recommend it for people unless they want to take care of that part. But there are people who in the future hopefully will monetize BTCPay server, become this centralized host and onboard newcomers. This is completely fine by us as well.
It's like L&D hub, right?
Yeah, or Ellen Bits. But I mean, it seems like there's almost some like kind of
Yeah.
opportunity for someone to, like you're talking about with like Namecheap, and it's like they just use the API. So it's like they're not using the BTC Pay server front end. They're just using the API for all these things. So it seems like there's opportunity for someone to make some kind of merchant product that's very, very tailored to a specific use case. Maybe it's brick and mortar, maybe it's online, and build like a really like nice front end or something that's like just targeted just for this one type of user with like no setup or options or anything like that, and then they could just use the BTC Pay server API in the background, and all that. I mean, if they build it right, it could be self-custodial and all these other things. It just got me thinking when you're talking about how like it's almost like more like a platform.
Yes.
In a way.
In a way, yeah, we tried to rebrand it in a way to calling it a payment platform. That was one of our goals, I guess, for this year, but we did not do that really. But yeah, I agree. Also, we have pretty easy white labeling, so anybody can. We have actually people who tried to raise money just by white labeling BTCPay server. Which is completely fine by us. Like, we really just want people to be able to use and accept Bitcoin anyway they can. We had somebody in El Salvador who forked it, tailored specifically for their local market. That's Stinky Yankee, I think that's the name of the app. And they're doing great. So there are lots of options, which is a blessing and a curse, especially when we think about the UX. Because some people are just frustrated when they use BTCPay server. They yell on us, "Oh, I cannot figure this out." And then you have like completely opposite people who are so grateful that they have this opportunity to have this much control over the entire payment stack. So truth is probably somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and that's good to like get that good kind of balanced perspective of this. There's a lot of things you can do with it, and it's very flexible, versatile platform. But that kind of versatility comes at a cost, that there maybe some prior knowledge that the user needs to have, and some time invested in kind of setting it up exactly the way you want it to be. And sometimes for some people's types of needs, that's going to be a huge blessing to be able to have that kind of power at your fingertips. And then for other types of users, they're just not going to have the time to figure out about that. So it depends on who what their needs are.
Yeah, I guess BTCPay server can be a very good case study for anybody building, as you said, merchant product, which is specifically tailored towards one kind of users. Lots of learnings, lots of design choices can be taken away from us and learn from our both good choices and bad choices, I guess. Yeah.
Mad props for the project. It's pretty amazing what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep, I'm loving it. I need to. I just was. You missed it earlier, Pav, but I was just saying I set one up. I like tried BTCPay a long time ago, but never got deep into it. But I went through and set up my own node and BTCPay instance on Voltage. So I've been having fun playing around with all of the stuff. I'm not actually selling anything except for your default T store stuff at the moment. So if you want some green tea or black tea, I'll hook you up.
I
But
want that fancy coffee out there, man. We need to
yes,
change that.
I'm gonna rebrand it. You know, I tried making that coffee at home, and it doesn't work as good without the instant coffee. When I used real coffee and I tried like mashing it in the French press, like it foamed up, but like it didn't.
Yeah, needs
It
to be
didn't,
instant.
and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is like I feel like I should be able to do it with real coffee, and I just like I need to. I don't know. I need to keep practicing at it.
Once you figure it out, we'll have our own brand of coffee and we'll quit Bitcoin because this will be way more fun. And
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And you know how important coffee is to Pav. There's some special coffee skills there, barista skills.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. We're getting up on the hour here, so I think I might kill the recording soon, unless anybody has any final comments or questions about BTC Pay server and merchants and all that. Yash, Raj, Ed, everybody doing good? Everybody's doing good? All right. Hey, thanks so much for joining us, Pavel. Thanks for coming and talking about BTC Pay with me, everybody. I'll get the notes and call uploaded later. And let's stop this recording.